What's up, everyone? It's CTD from C2 Wrestling, and I just want to give you guys a heads up before we get into this video. We will be live with our live reactions to Saturday night's main evented by Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. Come hang out with us right here on our YouTube channel. We will have our live reactions. We will be talking wrestling. We're going to have a great time. Hang out with the boys, watch us be upset or love the outcomes. It'll be a great time. We hope to see you there. But now, let's get into the video. C2 Wrestling back. SmackDown review. Not as good as Raw this week, but still another solid
Fair.
show.
Yeah, still a solid show. Raw was fantastic though too. Raw was like a great Raw, so it's hard to maybe live up to that within the same week. But good show. Nothing to complain about again all around. Some pretty big news. Something pretty big happened. What do you want to get into first?
I will get into the travesty. I need to address it.
Let's hear
I
it.
I love DIY. I love them
Yeah,
turning heel. I thought it was very well done. I liked it.
yeah.
Triple H, you will pay for your sins. Taking those titles off of my Motor City Machine Guns.
Rat-a-tat-tat. I don't hate it. I kind of like it, to be honest. I think it's good for the
Yeah.
tag division. I think it's good for the Guns. The Guns are on the chase now, against a fresh heel team. People are going to be hating on them. Gargano just kind of turned. Why not? Why not flip the belts back over to DIY? They get maybe a title run that they probably would have had if Motor City Machine Guns didn't come to WWE, to be honest. Maybe they get an actual run with the belts. Guns are on the chase again. That's better, in my opinion.
Yeah, like all joking aside, I obviously love the machine guns. I like DIY a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
I hope this leads to one massive thing, an actual machine guns promo, because
Yeah,
these
yeah.
guys have a ton of personality, and for whatever reason, it has been as cookie cutter as it gets with them so far. And I want to see their actual personality. Watching them, growing up on them, watching them for literal decade in TNA. Like I know what these guys can do, and it's almost frustrating that we weren't getting it. The new DIY element, them taking the tag titles, them doing it in such a heel fashion, getting a little bit of the sympathy for the machine guns probably helps with a bit of the crowd. They now have a
Yeah.
little bit of that feel bad aspect for them that they dropped the titles from Gargano, one of Shelley's best friends turning on him. I like it. I like that aspect, but I will always and forever say anyone who wrongs my TNA boys, you will pay for those sins.
Yeah, it's. I do agree. It is a shame to see the Guns lose the belts kind of so quickly. But it's unexpected. I didn't really see it coming. I didn't think it would happen this soon, at least. So, again, it's keeping everybody on their toes. These things need to happen within wrestling. Not every title change needs to be at a PLE or a Big Four, or this or that. Have these things happen every now and again. Not everybody needs the 300-day title reign. Sometimes being able to say I was a 5, 6, 7, 8-time champion is a little bit more of an accolade than I held the belt one time for 400 days. I'm okay with them kind of hot potato when the title's around. I think it opens up a little bit more opportunity for the Street Profits too. I think it makes a little bit more sense for them to be kind of still in the mix. We'll see where they go.
This goes back to what we've talked about where there's like the wave, and look, I know, don't listen to people online. It's
Mm-hmm.
normally where the loudest small minority is, but so many of them talk about how predictable Triple H's booking is, whatever. There was nothing predictable about this. First off, they
No.
had the Profits versus the Machine Guns as the scheduled match. What would have been predictable is what we assumed would happen. DIY probably interferes, sets up a three-way tag match between the two teams, maybe at Saturday night's main event. That doesn't happen. We get DIY more than likely attacking the Profits backstage. They fill in for the tag title match, gets granted by Aldis. They win the titles. That no one was predicting that unless you had some sort of spoiler given to you about it.
Mm-hmm.
No one saw that coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I completely understand loving the Guns and being upset, but there's nothing really to be upset about within this one. It's good for the division again. I want these titles to float around. I like seeing the new belts on new teams too, as corny as that kind of sounds. It's nice to see. But I want to see some other teams get in the mix too. This eventually DIY Guns will run its course. This probably runs through the Rumble, I'd say, this feud. Maybe Mania, we get something new coming around. But where do the belts go? How do all these teams stay in the mix? You'd imagine you want both of these teams on the Mania card for Mania 41. I know this is a little out there still. DIY the Guns, if they're feuding now, up until the Rumble, all the way through. It's kind of long, maybe. It depends how they really stretch it out. So I think they might need to throw some other teams in the mix, kind of some in-betweener feuds, similar to like we see all over the show lately. Cody and Gable in between Cody and Owens, Cody and Carmelo in between Cody and Owens. Maybe we're going to get some stuff like that down the line. I'm okay with them floating these belts around again. I think that's my favorite thing is the belts kind of hot potatoing a little bit.
And speaking of a mix of new people, a matchup of new matchups, we have announced on SmackDown the opening of the transfer window, which myself, as you can tell, big soccer fan, love a transfer window. Also makes perfect sense happening now. I don't know if we're going to get a draft now, if we're getting this
Mm-hmm.
transfer window, which I'm fine with. To me, especially where things are at right now, the rosters just need like a little spruce up. They don't need a full blown makeover, completely big, massive change. Just a couple people here or there, especially with both shows going to 3 hours for at least a while. Raw going on
Yeah,
Netflix soon. I think they'll use the next few weeks of the transfer window to basically work around the brand split and have these names show up on other shows, which we saw tonight. Gunther appeared talking to Nick Aldis. So,
unexpected.
yeah, Dom was in the background talking to Nick Aldis. These things are going to happen with the transfer window being open, but I like it. Is there any name that sticks out to you that you think makes sense to switch brands? It's between all three brands they mentioned as well.
I mean, I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I get it. I understand it. I prefer them doing a transfer window than just kind of doing it without saying it. Again, this is accountable to the logic they've been using in wrestling. Under this Vince regime, they would have just done it. There would have been no explanation. Nothing ever happens. All you got to do is simply put a title to it, transfer window, and it makes things a whole lot better. So I don't hate it in that sense, but I'd still rather a strict brand split. I'm a brand split guy all the way through, in all honesty. But in terms of names coming up, coming around, transfer from here or there, I think you had sent this to me on Twitter. I think we're going to see Ethan Page come around maybe towards Monday Night Raw. I feel like he fits the bill for Monday Night Raw on Netflix. In terms of teams, stables, singles wrestlers, women floating around, I don't know. I think Charlotte probably pops up on Raw come around Netflix era, Netflix time. That's a big woman's name, big return. I feel like that would be for Netflix. I know she hasn't really been around for a while, but she was a SmackDown branded wrestler, correct? And then I think the overall theme, really, though, is the bloodline still. I really think that's why we're getting the transfer window overall, is just for whatever crossover of Jay and who else now? I don't know. Everyone's injured. Tonga Loa's down, Jimmy Uso's down, Bronson Reed's maybe not fully affiliated, but he's down for the count right now. So I don't know what their plan is now with all the injuries. But I think that has been the idea of this crossing over from the beginning, is just the bloodline.
Kind of tying into the bloodline, my first name that came to my mind was Sami Zayn. I think it's quite clear we're going to get Owens versus Zayn at Mania,
Yes.
unless they somehow stretch Owens or into Mania, which I don't see happening. Um, I mean, it's not impossible. We're not that far away from it. I just don't think it'll happen. I think Owens Zayn is more likely. At the worst, Owens Zayn will happen at Survivor Series. Technically, Owens and Orton faced at last year's Mania already.
Survivor Series?
Oh, no, SummerSlam. Sorry. Technically,
Yeah.
I've got War Games fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
Technically, Owens and Orton faced last year at Mania already. Doesn't mean they can't face again. But they dropped the seed. Michael Cole talking to Kevin Owens in his car, which was a
Great segment.
hilarious segment.
Yeah.
But he mentioned Your best friend, Sami Zayn, also teamed with Roman Reigns, and Kevin Owens gave the "I will handle that in due time." That to me is pretty obvious. They're on two separate brands.
Yeah,
It feels like it is a match that is inevitable and makes plenty sense for WrestleMania or at the worst, SummerSlam. That seems to me like a pretty obvious one. One of those two going to the opposite brand.
I agree. I do think there is some opportunity for maybe a surprise here. Like you said, we had Gunther on SmackDown tonight. Maybe leading into Mania, we get Gunther facing somebody that none of us expected. Maybe we get Gunther versus an LA Knight at WrestleMania. Who knows at this rate with the transfer window? It really gives them any option, which they have to begin with. There's always a way you can make it happen, despite how tight the brand split may be. Transfer window, though, again, just by having that title on what they're doing here makes things a lot better, a lot more acceptable, crossing people over. My worry overall with it is, though, obviously they probably run this through Mania. Maybe after Mania we get another dead set draft. But is there going to be a transfer window?
I think it ends like the
Was it?
Netflix.
Oh, what did it? I didn't even realize. To be
I
honest,
think
I
it's
must
like
have missed
a
that.
they said on commentary with Raw moving to Netflix, we've opened a transfer window.
Okay,
I think this is
yeah,
just like a
a
3
couple week thing.
week
Okay, yeah, I
thing.
guess I
Yeah.
didn't really think about it like that. Possibly, yeah. That was kind of my hope, though, was that this is like a shorter thing, even if it lasts all the way to Mania. I don't want something like this every Mania season just
Of
to make
course.
Mania feuds happen. You know, this one time again, we're still kind of in the fallout of the bloodline and whatnot. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens might not be in the bloodline. Sami kind of is, but they're still affiliated. All those feuds have loose ends. They're all kind of dying out within Mania 41. So you still need these brands to be kind of separate. Post Mania, leading into Mania, maybe they can be a little bit more split again. That is my hope overall. I hope to see the brand split come back, and I hope for it to be a strong split.
Yeah, I think the split will probably be decent, but there's going to be some people because although we've mentioned the bloodline being flipping back and forth, Cena is going to flip back and forth unless you have Cena
Mm-hmm.
on Raw for the first 5 or 6 months and then you have a draft and he gets drafted to SmackDown and he finishes there. Like that's the only way he isn't just kind of floating around on all the shows. Cena is the anomaly, but hopefully it's no more than Cena and we get back to the true splitting of the brands. You're not floating back and forth. And to be
Mm-hmm.
fair, most of them don't, but
Yeah.
there's still the few that do. And there's plenty of people where you're like, well, this guy wasn't on this show and so was, and they're not even on this brand. So hopefully we are getting away from that.
Yeah, I hope so. Regardless, though, again, I've said it already. The transfer window, having a title, superstar shakeup, the draft, it's been messy over the years. Them having brand splits, not having brand splits, the way they changed the brands up. A superstar shakeup was never good. I miss the old school kind of draft, the lottery, the roulettes, things like that. I would like to see them to get back into a function similar to that, hopefully. But for the time being, again, this is going to be a Mania build, maybe just as good as last year's, in all honesty. So I got no complaints leading in. I hope all these injuries, between the bloodline and Bronson Reed, I hope they don't necessarily affect any long term plans leading into Mania. But the Rumble, Netflix on Raw coming up pretty soon. It's shaping up to be solid, man. There's nothing to complain about. That is something I wanted to mention too. Netflix, that's a big point in all this, I feel like, too. This transfer window. Obviously, you had just mentioned it. I want to tail off that. Netflix wants everybody. They're going to want everybody. Who knows the rumor mill anymore? But it wasn't a few weeks ago that it came out and said Netflix wants CM Punk and
Yeah.
Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and Triple H and Hulk Hogan and all these guys and Stone Cold and whatnot. Of course they do. Everybody does. And I wouldn't blame WWE for putting them on
Yeah, and the reports were they're treating the first Raw on Netflix as like a WrestleMania, like a
there. Mm-hmm.
PLE. So I think that's why they do this little transfer window and get all the names on there, and then a week or two later, you're back to normal. But a fun SmackDown, a lot more fun Raws coming up. What's even more fun, Saturday night's main event is a week from tomorrow, and right here we will be live, just like we were for Survivor Series. Our reactions, talking wrestling. Come hang out with us. We will be spewing nonsense, getting loopy. I don't even know. Is it an 8 p.m. start time?
Ooh, I don't know actually off the top of my head. Probably for a primetime show, I'd imagine 8 p.m. fits the bill.
I think it is. I know the Rumble's at 6, but I would assume it's
Mm-hmm.
8 p.m. Whatever time it is, be here, C2 Wrestling. We are going to have a lot of fun. The second of many live streams. So you got to be here to catch our reactions.
Absolutely. As for this video, go down below, comment, subscribe, like the video, follow us on all the social media as always. We got more content coming even before Saturday night's the main event, which is only in a week or so. We got reviews, weekly podcast. NXT deadline is tomorrow night. Check out what we got coming after the show. We'll see you soon.